This is Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. From the corporate office to the cab of a truck, they're here to inspire and empower women in all professions. So gear down, sit back, and enjoy.
Welcome to Women Road Warriors. We're an award-winning show that works to inspire and empower women in every profession. Our goal is to power women on their road to success. We tackle all kinds of topics and work to encourage women to be their very best with informative guests and women who've been champions. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Kathy.
No topic is taboo on our show. We tackle the tough topics along with the not-so-tough topics, and we like to feature experts and celebrities who can assist women in being the very best they can be. Autism in children is on the rise, and there's much speculation as to why this is. Too many times children go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. There is progress being made, but a lack of resources for parents and the confusion continues. We wanted to talk about this and unpack what's happening with autism today, what it is, and where parents can turn to help their children. Lisa Jacovsky is a psychology professor at Union College of New Jersey and Southern New Hampshire University. She's also an author who writes award-winning children's books. She's a wealth of information, and she's on the show with us today to dispel myths about autism and help shed some light on the condition. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
We're excited too. You know, Lisa, I want to definitely unpack autism, but you've got quite the background in psychology and you're multi-talented. You've written some really awesome books. I want to touch on those books later in our interview, but if you wouldn't mind, could you kind of give us a brief summary of your background?
Absolutely. I've been in the field of applied behavior analysis for 10 years next month, which is crazy. It's gone by very fast. I started working with adults in residential group homes that would have developmental disabilities and other underlying mental health issues, which we call dual diagnosis. And then I changed to working with kids with autism, doing one-to-one ABA in their homes. And I've been doing early intervention with children under 3 years old that typically they come for speech issues or not responding to their name. And I've been doing that for almost 5 years now. So I do that on the side, and I'm teaching full-time as a professor at Union College of New Jersey and Southern New Hampshire University. Yeah.
You're a Renaissance woman for sure.
Yeah, I like having multiple things to do. Thank you.
It is. I love what you're doing, and you're helping so many children.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of cases of autism, and I know that there's a lot of confusion about that whole diagnosis. What is autism exactly?
Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects specific things in a child or an adult. It affects their social development. They're going to have difficulty understanding social cues. They may have difficulty with boundaries, whether they ignore others because they don't realize or they don't necessarily want to interact with others, or they may have zero social boundaries and just walk up to anyone and everyone and try to hug them or touch their hair. It also affects communication. That is one of the other really big signs that something underlying may be going on. It also affects eye contact and the ability to hold eye contact. And what a lot of people don't know is that ability to hold eye contact is what actually affects their processing and their ability to store information in short-term memory.
Okay. So they have a visual deficit then.
Yeah, they do. And that's one of the things that is a really large sign to a lot of my families. They come to me about communication, but they also say, my child's not looking me in the eye. They're not responding when I call their name. They're not responding when I say, oh, mommy's here, daddy's here. So that's something that's kind of subtle that families don't realize is actually really important to pay attention to and can affect children and adults with autism throughout their whole lives too.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's so many different groupings for autism. You've got high functioning and low functioning, a lot of different terms. Asperger's syndrome, I think, is one of them.
Yep.
Could you touch on some of those? Because I know there's confusion on that too.
Yeah, so when we talk about autism, we talk about in the USA as a spectrum. The really interesting thing is that Europe looks at autism and disabilities as something that's in a circle. So I talk about it as a spectrum, but I try to go more towards the circle part because I like the way it talks about it as something that's roundabout. There is low functioning, there's high functioning, but there's so many different types of autism, and those with autism are as individualized as any other child. So in the US, we're also talking about neurotypical and neurodivergent. We are getting rid of the word normal. It's a word that I honestly do not like at all. I believe everybody has something and nobody is normal, with quotes, as we say. So when we say, yeah, I feel like everybody has their own little thing. So we talk about neurodivergent more than anything now. And we're even getting away from the term Asperger's. So when we talk about autism, high functioning, we're talking about individuals that are able to fit into our world more than other individuals. They're able to go to school, get a college degree, hold a job. They're able to interact. These may be individuals that it's not so obvious they have something underlying going on. There's also individuals that are on the middle or lower end of the spectrum. Middle end can do anything and everything anybody else can. Same with lower functioning individuals. It just may look different for them. So when we say lower functioning, we're talking about individuals that you can tell there's something underlying, whether it's autism, whether it's bipolar, it's anything, a developmental delay going on. And those are going to be individuals that are going to need more help with interacting and fitting into our world. I had this conversation with my normal psychology class this week about how we try to fit individuals with autism into our world instead of changing our world to fit individuals with autism. So it's very interesting.
I've heard that statement before.
Yeah. So, it's very interesting that we push individuals like that, but it's how at this moment we kind of identify individuals with autism. And it's so interesting because we talk about lower functioning, but I've taken individuals that are lower functioning to ride roller coasters, to go bowling. Yeah, and we consider them lower functioning with quotes. And all that really means is they need help showering. They need help cooking. They may not talk with their mouth, but we consider them lower functioning because they don't fit into our world the way we think they should. So we have these ideas and labels and conceptions about autism, but it's not necessarily the reality of what autism is.
It seems like a lot of people with autism can be absolutely brilliant.
That's the other thing. A lot of the adults that I worked with were incredible artists, and about half my books right now have been illustrated by individuals with autism. And these are individuals that I met with through Zoom because they live in California, and some of them you could tell something was going on, some of them you couldn't. But even if you can tell something's going on, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
They're incredible artists. They came up with the idea for the cover of one of my books, and the reception to it, I always get asked about the illustrations every time I read my books. And I love that because I love talking about Brainstorm. It's such a testament that it doesn't matter if you're low, middle, high functioning, if you're neurodivergent, if, you've got Asperger's, if you want to use that term. It just shows it doesn't matter where you are when it comes to your own disability. You're only limited by those around you. Your actual disability does not limit you. And it's pretty incredible to see.
It does not define you.
Exactly. I always tell my families that, if you want to put your little one into soccer, go do it. Just like any other child, soccer could be their thing. It might not be. But why not give them the chance to try? If you don't give them the chance like any other child, you don't know. And they could excel at it. So you're only limiting them by your own choices, not by their disability.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I have one question for you. Do you want to stop worrying about the IRS? If the answer is yes, then look no further. I've been around for years, I've helped countless people across the country, and my success rate speaks for itself. So now you know where to find good, honest help with your tax problems. What are you waiting for? If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or haven't filed in years, call me now at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com for a free consultation and get your life back.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
If you're enjoying this informative episode of Women Road Warriors, I wanted to mention Kathy and I explore all kinds of topics that will power you on the road to success. We feature a lot of expert interviews. Plus, we feature celebrities and women who've been trailblazers. Please check out our podcast at womenroadwarriors.com and click on our episodes page. We're also available wherever you listen to podcasts, on all the major podcast channels like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, you name it. Check us out and bookmark our podcast. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other sites. And tell others about us. We want to help as many women as possible. Autism is a developmental disorder that makes it hard for people to recognize social cues or execute proper boundaries. It impacts interactions with others. It affects communication as well as eye contact. People with autism often have the inability to hold eye contact, which can affect processing and short-term memory. This causes a major deficit in learning in children. Lisa Jacovsky is an expert in applied behavioral analysis. She teaches at Union College of New Jersey and Southern New Hampshire University. Lisa is clearing the air and the confusion that surrounds autism in children. Understanding how people with autism function is essential to treating it. It's important to mold our world to fit the world of people with autism. Children with autism don't have to be limited in who they can become. Lisa is offering hope with her perspectives and the information she's been giving us about autism. You know, Lisa, I've heard people say, gee, it seems like there are more cases of autism now than there ever were.
Yes.
I can't believe it didn't exist before. Has there been a major increase? Is there a reason for that? Or is it just that we've gotten wiser on how to diagnose it?
So there's a few things going on. There's in the state of New Jersey, they changed the criteria to qualify for early intervention about 2 years ago, right after the pandemic. And once they did that, we had an influx of children, which really shows that there's a lot more children out there that are in need, that are not getting what they need because positive information is not put out there. There's also the fact that we are getting better at understanding autism and how to diagnose and putting more resources out there. I also believe, in my own personal and professional opinion from the research I've done, that the chemicals we put in our food inside our body, whether it's through perfume, through cleaning stuff that gets into us, that increases the chances of having a child with autism, as well as increases the type of autism they have when they're exposed in the womb. So for me, the increase is going to continue as long as we continue to have things where we're exposed to chemicals.
Well, when you think about it, 60, 70 years ago, they didn't
Yeah.
use all of these chemicals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as we're evolving as a community, we're increasing our use of specific products, of chemicals in general, thinking this is a great way to do things. It helps. But look at what's happening. We're getting an increase in mental health issues, increase in autism.
Yeah.
For me, there is a connection.
I've heard from a few different people, like just over the years, that they thought that the autism had some sort of what's the word, direct result from vaccinations. What do you think about that?
So I get this question very often, and I always
I
have this
bet you do.
conversation with my students.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what happens. There is no direct support for that. And the
Okay.
reason that this happens is we are a culture and society that looks for a reason. We have to know why. So when children go to get vaccinated, they're 2 years old and there's subtle signs of autism. I've had numerous families say to me, how did I miss that in early intervention? And the reality is the subtle signs are very easy to mix. And once they get a diagnosis, they're 2, 3, 4 years old. It's directly after they get vaccinations. And they're like, oh, it had to have been the vaccination because I got the diagnosis right after. That has to be the reason. No, the reason is the signs were there. You just didn't see them because either you didn't want to or you were not knowledgeable enough about those subtle signs. So
Makes
that's
sense.
really, yeah.
So
what's
there's
going on.
absolutely zero evidence to support that allegation.
Correct. There's no
Okay.
research that supports it.
Okay.
What is
All
in
right.
the research is that, like I was talking about the chemicals, I do believe that if a child is in the womb growing, because I believe they're born with autism, that we are all born a specific way. So I believe that in the womb, when they are developing and they have autism, they come out, and that the chemicals in the vaccines could possibly affect the type of autism they have. So that I do believe, and that there is some research to support. So if a child was originally meant to have high functioning autism, they get a vaccine, their autism could increase and their social skills could be worse than they were originally meant to be. So that's something that I do believe does happen.
Well, I know.
What about genetics?
That is another thing. They did find that there is a gene that parents can 50-50 have, and it can be passed down to the child. I actually worked with a family, I think it was like a year and a half ago. The dad had autism, child came out with autism as well. And you can get tested for it. You could have it, you might not have it. If they have the gene, then that would explain it and give them a valid reason. But it's only a 50-50 chance right now based on the research.
Okay.
Like I have 5 coworkers that have autistic children, and one of them has 2.
See, that's
So
amazing.
how often is that? Is that like you have one, but then the second child is autistic as well? Is that a rising statistic or?
So if your first child has autism, there is a higher chance of the second one having autism, but we really don't know. I've worked with families where the first 2 were neurotypical, the third one was autistic. I worked with a family, little boy, he was 7. He had high functioning autism. His 2 younger siblings were neurotypical. I've also did my developmental disability certification through Rutgers, and we had families come in and talk to us. One family had 4 kids, all with autism.
Wow.
So that is something we don't fully know yet, but we do know having the first child with autism does raise the chances of the next child having it.
Okay. Because I was quite surprised when I found that. Actually, another one of my coworkers, he's not working for a company, but just as a contractor, he has high functioning autism, and yet he still drives truck and does things, but he was, because we had a discussion one day in the lunch shack. We were sitting for a few hours, and I would say, well, how do you manage that? Right. And he was saying that, well, it's just that sometimes his decision-making skills aren't the best. He said he can, function, but it's like almost like a cloud under high stress. Like he was the one at work that would get always stuck, or would be in compromising situations more than everybody else, because he said my ability to make the proper decision on which way to take isn't necessarily as active as
so that's his executive functioning skills. And I just did an interview with this amazing doctor that I'm actually hoping to work with in the future. There's this piece in the brain called the habenula, and it's starting to gain more research, and it has to do with us being able to make decisions and being able to have boundaries. So when it's I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but when it's turned on, we're either able to make decisions or we're not. And the same with the opposite if it's turned off. So what they're finding is, because she's doing neuropsychology, so she's combining neuroscience with psychology as a medical doctor, and she's researching how this is affecting autism. So with individuals with autism, they have these executive functioning and issues. We're starting to try to see if there's a medical reason for it. And this very, very under-researched part of the brain, because we focus on dopamine so much,
Yeah.
but there is also the habenula. So this may actually explain why he has difficulty with being able to make decisions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I took biomed in college, and I don't remember ever hearing about that part of the brain.
Me either. She's talking to me. It comes out of my podcast. I forget when, but she's amazing. Dr. Kyra Bobbinet. I am hoping to do, I have something for school I got to get past in the next few weeks, and then I want to do more research on it. But I have her app, I have her website, and I'm hoping to do my research paper with her next year for my doctorate degree, because this was so interesting and it would literally explain so much that we don't know about autism.
It could
So-
revolutionize how it's treated too.
Yeah, exactly. It really would. So we focus so much on dopamine, which does explain some things, but we don't know everything. So if this really can tell us why kids don't speak, why there's no social boundaries, why executive functioning is affected so much, this could literally revolutionize the way we look at autism and how we look at treating it.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is building a positive image of trucking by telling the story of the hardworking drivers and industry professionals who support the industry. And you can be a part of it. Learn more about TMAF and how you can join and be a part of the industry movement working to build a strong image of trucking by visiting TMAF's website at truckingmovesamerica.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our latest channel, TikTok.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
Why are there more cases of autism in children today? What's really going on? The facts are, we're getting better at diagnosing it and getting resources out there. Autism can be genetic. Applied behavioral analysis expert Lisa Jacovsky also believes there may be a connection with environmental chemicals and the increase in autism in children, as well as the types of autism they can develop when they're exposed to chemicals in the womb. She does not believe that there's any direct support to correlate vaccines and the increase in autism, although it's discussed a lot. She believes autism has subtle signs much earlier, and they're just noticed after children get their vaccines. Their symptoms are not related to the vaccines themselves. There are studies to support that chemicals in the vaccines could impact the type of autism a child does develop, however. Lisa's offering some great insight in our discussion about autism. Lisa, I could see, depending on the severity of the autism, the symptoms could really be missed by parents. I could see where they wouldn't know what to look for, especially if they're new parents. There are no instructions that come with a baby.
Exactly. And there's so much
with
out
teenagers.
there.
Oh, with
Yeah,
teenagers.
that too.
Yeah.
I dread having a teenager eventually. Oh,
Yeah.
gosh, they just stay little forever.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
Right.
And never get a driver's license.
That too. Oh my God. That's going to scare me eventually when that happens. Oh my goodness.
Right. So what are some of the symptoms that can accompany autism with a little one?
So with a little one of the biggest signs, and it's something that's very, very often missed, is eye contact. So, when you're singing to a newborn infant, even if they're like 6 months old, they should hold your eye contact when you're singing to them. They should be able to, orient to your voice when you talk to them. But with a little one with autism, they're not going to look you in the eye immediately. They're not going to orient to your voice. They're going to be looking all over the place. They're going to be looking to the side, and that's one of the first signs. And a lot of times what happens is, parents are in denial. They don't want their child to have something wrong with them and don't realize that having that diagnosis, what it can lead to, all the positive resources, and it's really something it's hard for parents to accept and understand. So that's why with early intervention, we get a lot of kids that are between 2 and 2.5. And even though we only go to the day before their third birthday, they're still like, oh, my kid's not talking. I'm like, well, they're not talking because they can't look you in the eye.
Yeah.
People don't realize how important that joint attention, that eye contact is. That's literally everything when it comes to processing and speech. So
Really
as soon as I explain that, they're like, oh, it makes sense. So, that's really the first and biggest sign. And then the next one is the speech, when they're not talking by a certain age. Sometimes they're not even babbling. So that's the biggest one that families always come to early intervention for, but that's probably the first one that families actually really recognize.
So does somebody go to get the proper diagnosis? I don't think that parents would
Yeah.
know. Do they talk to their pediatrician to get the referral, or what do they do?
So they do talk to their pediatrician, and my best advice for families is to push. Always push, because what a pediatrician is going to do is be like, oh, they're fine. Or they're going to do a 10-question short, in quotes, short autism questionnaire. And then they're going to say, oh, they're fine. But the reality is, a regular pediatrician is not qualified to make that point. The family has to push, push, push to get a referral for a developmental pediatrician. Whether this 10 questionnaire comes up that they should do it or not, if they feel something's wrong, make sure you push for a referral for a developmental pediatrician. A developmental pediatrician or a neurologist can make the diagnosis. And something else that families have to keep in mind, and I always tell my families, is make multiple appointments and don't just make it at the children's hospital. Children's hospital is great. I'm not knocking them, but so many families just make it there. And then they're waiting 6 months, a year, if they can even make that appointment. Sometimes they call and they're like, oh, call us back in a year. That's how backed up it is. But the reality is there's other places you can go. So a lot of times pediatricians will push children's hospital, but you really got to look into other places because there's plenty of others that can see your child. And if you make an appointment and say it's in 8 months, you have where somebody could cancel and you can get in sooner. So my recommendation is always, always make multiple appointments and always push. You are the parent, you know your child best. Do not rely on that pediatrician for it. If they say no, get another pediatrician's opinion and get your child that developmental pediatrician appointment.
Excellent. Yeah, 8 months to a year, that's a lifetime when you're that young. I mean, it could make a huge difference.
If you can even make the appointment. I've had a number of families call and they say to them, oh, we're booked. Like it's April right now. They could call and be like, we're booked the rest of the year. Call us in January for an appointment. That's how crazy backed up it is.
Wow. So they need more resources for parents who have children with autism. It sounds like they're
Big time.
understaffed.
Big time. And you can get your child into early intervention without a developmental pediatrician appointment, which is amazing. All you have to do is look up the resources online and call their number, and you can get assessed for early intervention. So while you're waiting for the developmental pediatrician, your child can be getting services, occupational therapy, speech therapy, direct instruction, all of which we can work on until they're 3. And the great thing about early intervention is that they actually help you get assessed through the school system. So the service coordinator actually holds their hand through the whole process. And whether you have the appointment yet or not, you can get your child into more services before they even see the developmental pediatrician.
Okay.
So there's a lot of resources out there before they even get to that appointment, and families just need to be told about it.
That's amazing. Yeah, and they're not.
Yeah, exactly. So many pediatricians, I had one ask me for a progress report on a kid, and I read it over before I sent it in. I'm like, it's very obvious something's going on with this kid and that they need, an appointment. And then the mom texts me and goes, oh yeah, the pediatrician is very happy with your report. He thinks he's doing great. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Did you not read my report about the fact he can't look you in the eye? He's not talking, but he doesn't need a referral. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I've got a lot of issues with pediatricians.
Yeah, and the thing is, bad advice is so dire. I mean, it's so
Yes.
costly because if there can be early intervention, I would think that that helps
Yep.
the child once they enter school.
Yep.
And I would think it helps maybe work with some of these symptoms
Yep.
and helps them maybe develop those neural pathways. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the
Exactly.
expert, but
It totally does. And that's the thing too, is that, early intervention, 99% of the time is free, or maybe you'll have like a $10 copay, but if you can get them into early intervention, you're getting occupational therapy, which works on fine motors, gross motors, eye contact, sensory stuff. And then you've got direct instruction, which works on basically everything else. Being able to sit, being able to transition from an activity, eye contact, speech. Speech is always last because we want them to be able to have those basic functioning skills. So we always put in speech last. But and not to say like this is every client, but the one client I'm working with right now, I've been with her since December, and she turns 3 in August. And the change in this kid is tremendous. And it's really thanks to her mom, because we're only there as parent training. So I train the mom to work with her outside of session. And this kid is looking you in the eye. She's sitting. We've progressed to the point she's using the sign for more communication. She's starting to point. I haven't had a kid that can progress this fast in a really long time. So it really just shows the power of the techniques and the power of the family too.
yeah.
And if she qualifies for school, she can continue to get speech, and it's free. So that's the great thing too, is that
Oh,
they
that's good.
qualify. Yeah, because preschool is free, which is amazing.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Kathy Tuccaro is nothing short of amazing. She not only drives the world's biggest truck as a heavy equipment operator in northern Alberta, Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big, an autobiography about overcoming a lifetime of trauma and abuse that led to dreams of success. Kathy inspires people the world over to change their lives and improve their self-worth. Her book will change your life. She's passionate about personal growth and believes anyone can change their circumstances and overcome their obstacles if they believe in themselves. Her life will amaze you and seriously inspire you. Be sure to order a copy of her book, Dream Big, on Amazon.com. Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry, our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
There's a part of the brain that's now being studied that's called the hybenula. It controls our abilities to make decisions and have boundaries. It appears that executive functioning may be impacted in this area of the brain when a person has autism. It may also explain why people with autism have difficulty making decisions. Lisa Jacovsky is a psychology professor and expert in applied behavioral analysis. She's been taking some of the disinformation and confusion out of autism for us. Catching autism early is essential, and parents need to be proactive and seek a developmental pediatrician if they're not getting the help they need with their child. This way they get the most resources to give their children the proactive help they need. Lisa's giving some great suggestions on where parents can turn to get help to find these resources that are often free. You know, Lisa, Financial resources have gotten better. I know that
Yeah.
probably 20 years ago, it was hard to find the resources, and it was really
Yep.
breaking the bank for the families trying to get help.
Oh, yes. And it's not to say that insurance has gotten much better. Insurance can still be a pain, but it
Mm.
really pays for so much. It'll even pay for majority of the cost of the developmental pediatrician and their assessment. And if they do qualify and get the diagnosis, it pays for everything else. In-home ABA, going to get speech outpatient, going to get occupational therapy outpatient, and things like that, they're not promoted and put out there like they should be.
It's
These
true.
families have to fight to find these resources, and it's a lot more available now, but it's still a lot more of a fight than it should be.
Yeah, you have to advocate constantly, and
Exactly.
having somebody like you who can guide people is so important.
Thank
Parents
you.
parents are going to be in denial. They're going to be very
Yeah.
upset, and it's hard to think logically
Yep.
when you're upset. You're concerned about your child. It's like, where do I turn? It can turn into a major nightmare. Are there advocates
Absolutely.
for autism across the nation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there are. I actually have interviewed a couple different special needs lawyers on my podcast. So if anybody ever wanted a free consult just to get some information, I can always give that to them. They're amazing. And there are also people who are credentialed as advocates, they're social workers that actually come to meetings who know the law in and out and can advocate and help the families. So there are specific people that can do that, and there's lawyers that do that as well. So these are individuals that families can look up as resources to help them too.
Okay. Now, in terms of lawyers, they're kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Can families get resources to pay for some of that? Or
Yes, they can. They
okay.
absolutely can. And, it can be expensive, but depending on the lawyer, the type of special needs lawyer that you get, you can always see if a nonprofit can help out, or maybe they have some kind of special that's going on, or maybe insurance can help pay for it.
Mhm.
Typically, if they go to something like that, it's because the kids are having some kind of an issue in public school. So I'm sure there's some kind of way they can work with them about that.
Having a comprehensive diagnosis and being
Yeah.
able to work up a treatment plan for the child, I would think that the outcome in school would be so much better because you can work with the school officials and tailor an educational plan for the children.
Oh, you would really think so. It's very much based on the school district. I'm
Mm.
working on my doctorate in school psychology. I went back for a second master's in school psychology, and last year, the whole year, I worked in a specific school district, which was a very awesome experience. I was very grateful for it, but it was also very eye opening. It's a more of an inner city school district, urban school district, and the way they go about helping children is basically they send them out. One of the schools, at least, just sends them out of district. The other one had special needs classrooms, but one of the things I noticed the most was that children that were not appropriate for inclusive classrooms were put in these classrooms. And then these teachers are giving paraprofessionals that are not trained, have no business being in a classroom with children with special needs, and there's nothing being done to help. And that is just one school district. It's not every school district. I know I've heard of ones that are awesome. There's a preschool here. I met the school psychologist there, and they were awesome. But it was kind of an eye opener to what can happen in a school district. The kids that I worked with as a behaviorist were just falling through the cracks. They were sent to me because, oh, they're refusing to do work. And then I get there and I observe and I'm like, this kid can't read. He literally cannot recognize the letters, but he's in fifth grade. I had two, one in
Oh
fourth,
my
one in fifth.
goodness.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's not behavior. He literally, I would watch the fifth grader raise his hand, try to respond, and have no idea how to, and then just put his head down sad. And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the fourth grader, the teacher is trying so hard for this kid. We came to the conclusion to meet him on his level. He's in fourth grade and he can only complete kindergarten level work. It's very obvious he
Um,
was like high functioning autistic, and it's like
yeah.
the school is not doing anything for them. They're
No,
just like, oh, here you go. They're having behaviors. You help them.
that's an
No, we're
injustice. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. It happens in a lot more school districts than people realize. And I'm not saying it's every school district, but it is happening in a lot of school districts. And yes, we
Mm,
have school psychologists, but from what I've been learning in school, they're not used correctly. And the one that was there was phenomenal in the district I worked in, and they did not use her the right way at all. And she quit because of it.
mhm.
So, they ended up losing this phenomenal 25-year veteran school psych because they only wanted to use her for counseling instead of writing
Right.
plans, writing treatments. It was ridiculous. So it was a very eye-opening experience. But this is the
Sound
reality of what's going on with schools, unfortunately.
Sounds like we need to educate the educators.
We do, and that's the thing. And you always hear about education reform, and now I actually understand it. I was like, oh my gosh. And I met, phenomenal teachers in both schools and phenomenal, social workers, but hearing the specialists, the things that go on and, the pushback that they get. And some of the teachers that pushed back at me trying to help. One was giving the inclusion specialist a really hard time for like absolutely no reason, and you watch these kids and it just breaks your heart because it's like, how do I help if the teacher won't do the strategies I'm
Yeah.
giving them? Because that's a lot was going on too. Some teachers would not do strategies. And it's like, that's how they get to fifth grade and they're in a social emotional learning group, and it started on purpose because they're doing things like this. I helped run the SEL group and it was amazing. Those boys came so far. I could not have been more proud of them, but it shouldn't get to the point where in fourth grade they're sitting there I'm observing them, they're sitting there having conversations ignoring the teacher.
Yeah, and the thing is, the child is going to develop other issues like a
Mm-hmm.
hang up about not being able to read and feeling
Mm-hmm.
stigmatized.
Self-esteem.
Yeah, it creates a learning deficit there.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that as a kid, I got a bad start in math, and
Exactly.
so anytime that I would deal with advanced math, I'd have anxiety. And it shouldn't have
Exactly.
happened, but it did, and that was in second grade, believe it or not.
I
But
do.
yeah, this is an injustice for children, and thank goodness
Yep.
for people like you, Lisa, for
Thank
educating.
you.
And we need more people like you.
Thank
And
you. I'm
what a
trying to spread that with my books.
Yes, absolutely. I want to talk about your books. Before we do that, can people reach out to you? Because I'm sure there are going to be some parents saying, I want to know more.
Mhm.
Yes, they absolutely can. My email is lisa@lisajay.net. You can also message me on my social media. Facebook is Books by Lisa Jacovsky. My Instagram is Twitter X, whatever they're calling it now.
Mhm.
Both of those are Diverse Ink Books. And I just made a TikTok, Lisa Jay author. So that's brand new. But you're always welcome to message me on any of my social media, and I will absolutely answer your questions and help you in any way I can.
Excellent. Is there a particular website people could go to also? Like, is there autism.org or something like that?
I would recommend NJ Autism. It's a phenomenal website. It has tons of resources, and I've actually partnered with them to spread autism positivity as well last year. The one site I would say to stay away from is Autism Speaks. It's not necessarily what everybody thinks. It's actually more of a for-profit organization than people think. They actually started, I think it was the color blue for autism, but majority of individuals with autism don't recognize that as their color. So there's some misconceptions around the puzzle piece, around the color blue for autism. And a lot of that was perpetrated by Autism Speaks. But whether you're in the state of New Jersey or not, NJ Autism is amazing. And I would also recommend looking up your state chapter that has to do with autism. They probably have a ton of resources and a ton of information that would be amazing for you as well.
Oh, my goodness. Lisa, you are a
Yeah.
wealth of information here.
Yeah, no
Thank
kidding.
you.
Wow.
We, we,
Thank you.
we got a couple minutes here. I wanted to talk about your books, award-winning
Yeah.
books called Let's Talk, Rascal Cat Brothers,
Yep.
Perfect as I Am, Spooky Ooky Dance Party. What are those about, and where can people find them?
My Let's Talk series is about autism and friendship. Each one has a different activity to show that individuals can do it too. and each one highlights a different social issue so they can see some different kind of ways to work with individuals that have that. And my little one with autism doesn't speak verbally. So I wanted to show a way that individuals with autism can do that. And so it's not so scary for families if their child can't talk with their mouth. My other books, so I just came out with a brand new series called Happy Thoughts Going to the Aquarium. That is my character from Let's Talk narrating, who has autism, doesn't speak with her mouth. So it's really awesome to see her use her system to talk that way, which I'm really excited about. My other books, Rascal Cat Brothers, Perfect as I Am, Spooky, were all illustrated by individuals with autism from the incredible company Brainstorm Productions. They are doing one more book for me due out in the summer, the second book in the Cat Brothers series, Mischievous Cat Brothers. And those books are narrated each by a different one of my cats. That's my only nonfiction series, and it's about the silly things my kitties do. Oh my God, it's so cute. Yeah. And it means so much to me because I don't think of myself as funny. So when they laugh and I read the book, I'm like, you guys are amazing.
Yeah.
They get it. You know, so I love when they laugh. It's awesome.
Yeah. Lisa, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Where can everybody find your books too? What a wonderful way to explain autism.
Thank
as well.
you.
It's beautiful. Honestly, it's
Thank
beautiful.
you so much. Oh my gosh, that means so much to me. You know, coming from a person who doesn't have formal writing training, it just means so much that people can not only connect with my books, but understand the message and learn from them. They can find them all on Amazon. Every single one is there, and barnesandnoble.com. My first 3 books in the Let's Talk series and Happy Thoughts can be found everywhere. Walmart, Target, any place that sells books. You can also message me on my social media. I do free shipping and I sign. So you can always get a copy from me as well.
This has been just super enlightening. I've learned a lot about autism I didn't know.
Oh my gosh, I know. Me too. It's like, whoa.
It's crazy. It's been 10 years and it's so crazy to see like how much that, you know, because it's been a long road to get to teaching, not even knowing that I wanted to teach and just figuring out where I wanted to go in this field. So it's been a road, but I'm very thankful for the experiences and the supervisors that I've had. They trained me extremely well, and now I can use that for something even better.
And your students are very fortunate to have you.
Thank
I would have liked to have a psych professor like you when I took psych in college.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel blessed to have them. This has been my favorite semester teaching yet, and they're just so incredible. We have the best conversations, and I literally pinch myself every Tuesday and Thursday. Like I really get to go in and talk about what I love, you know, and abnormal psych and research and even in personality. Like it's just so much fun. It's amazing.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show, Lisa. This has been terrific.
Thank you guys, Shelley and Kathy.
Yeah,
you guys
thank
are
you
amazing.
so much. Oh my God.
Thank you guys. This was incredible. I'm so excited.
We are too.
We are. Yeah, I was just going to say, you're amazing. Ugh.
We love amazing guests, and you're definitely one of them, Lisa. Thank you so much for being on the show. We hope you've enjoyed this latest episode. And if you want to hear more episodes of Women Road Warriors or learn more about our show, be sure to check out womenroadwarriors.com. And please follow us on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. On our website, we also have a selection of podcasts just for women. They're a series of podcasts from different podcasters. So if you're in the mood for women's podcasts, just click the Power Network tab on womenroadwarriors.com. You'll have a variety of shows to listen to anytime you want to. Podcasts made for women. Women Road Warriors is on all the major podcast channels like Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, YouTube, and others. So check us out. And please follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you want to be a guest on the show or have a topic or feedback, email us at sjohnson@womenroadwarriors.com.